Hi, I'm Rebecca Dawson and this is the September 2016 energy update. First one we've done by video, hopefully nice and easy for everyone to digest rather than looking at the written word. I've always done it through articles and channel transcripts. This time we're going to see if we can bring it directly to you. The month of August has been incredibly challenging for most people. It's been challenging in terms of the last vestiges of identity really being stripped away. So if you've been feeling like the rug's been pulled out from under you, or things that you've been focused on and planning for a long time, directions you thought that were for you, identities you thought that were yours, starting to have cracks appear, starting to become more unattainable, take heart, because this is not about you having to work harder to get there. This is not about something you're doing wrong. This is about moving into a completely new energy now that needs to be in total alignment with who you really are. And so August was really about the letting go of those last fragments. It was a time of deep grief for a lot of people. It was a time of confusion. And it was also a time when you really started questioning yourself. Am I really in the right life? Is everything that I've done to get where I am been a complete waste? So the sense of disillusionment's been quite strong, and there have been many people who have been contacting me in many different forms who have been feeling this sense of grief and loss. The good news is that this is really part of the last vestige really of an identity build out of an old paradigm. So the good news is September is the gateway to mid-October. And September is really transition stage for us, because when we get to mid-October 2016, this is where the energy is really starting to build, because a whole new cycle is going to be beginning in February 2017. So mid-October 2016 is when we really start to get clear again about where we're going, what we're doing, what it is we'd like to do, and gives us more space for the opportunities that we'd like to bring us into our greater fullness will really start to show up. So the good news is you've only really got about 6 weeks to get through to get there. And in the meantime, yes, there's been some bodily issues going on. A lot of people having lower leg, hip and feet problem. That has got to do with a reversal of the poles within the energy field of the human body. Who knew? Just as there has been a recent reversal of poles in the electromagnetic field of the planet, it has also been happening in the field of the human body as well. So essentially, where we're used to having a great deal of energy pour in through the crown chakra or be expressed up through the third eye, pineal and crown, we're actually starting to have that really exit the feet, lower legs, hips at this time. So a lot of people are finding that any built up energy and stagnation that's been sitting there for a long time is really starting to pass through now and create a little bit of physical discomfort on the way out. The other thing that's been going on for people, there's been a little bit of skin disruption, some rash issues coming up again, acne coming up again. Again, it's a big clearing on a real surface level of some of the heat that's rising within the body. The crystalline grids within the body are now really firmly embedded and sitting nicely above that new diamond center that's sitting there between the throat and the mid-belly point. So with the reversal of the poles in the electromagnetic field, we're also seeing some interesting things happening with the brain in this last month or so and coming up through to mid-October. And this is where I was going to enter actually an interesting discussion about the pineal gland that we're seeing become reactivated again. Now the pineal gland is getting reactivated again because it is the real source of intelligence system within the body. And what it's always done, or what it was originally designed for, was to be the centralized energy point from which the right and left hemispheres of the brain would start to express the wisdom and distribute it throughout the body into a coherent fashion. Many hundreds of thousands of years ago, when the pyramidal type structural organization that we currently see on the planet was introduced, the human brain and the way that it was designed was effectually redesigned. And it was redesigned in a way that humanity wouldn't really start to use its core central cosmic intelligence system to make its decisions. It would just use the brain's knowledge base and its memory base to make decisions. So when that happened, humanity actually stopped expressing in a way that was greatly intuitive. And what it did was that it started following rules and it started acting from survival. So the decommissioning or the shutting down of the use of the pineal gland in its true sense within the human brain effectively divided the left and right hemisphere. So the human brain, instead of being one whole organism, essentially moved into two parts. Hence we had the beginning of duality. As we're moving into a new paradigm now, it's not really appropriate for us to be making decisions from what we've been conditioned to think, secondhand knowledge that's being passed down through the generations and so on. But we're being asked to really step into our cosmic understanding and our cosmic intelligence again. And that's why the pineal gland at this time is being truly reactivated, so that humanity can essentially move out of a slavery paradigm and back into one where the intelligence that's available to each individual is reflective of the cosmic awareness. So with this, a lot of people are starting to have a little bit of neck and shoulder discomfort, particularly on the left side. We've also got a little bit of tightness around the head happening, a little bit of blurred vision again in the left eye, and a little bit of ear blockage. All of these things are fairly minor for most people, but indicative of what's happening with that pineal gland. September is all about the opportunity to start to get comfortable with not knowing, to start to get comfortable with the possibility that there's a whole new set of directions for you that are just becoming available. It's going to be a continuation of a shedding process. It's going to be a continuation of the letting go of some of the things that you had to let go of in August. But there's also going to be a little bit of glimmer of excitement there and a little bit of glimmer of hope. Because energetically as a whole, humanity is actually moving into the now what's possible. We're actually moving into the what could occur. And this is really thematic based on what we saw in July, because July was really the month of the what if, the month of miracles and what could happen. And as that really started to permeate up within our fields, the identity, of course, had to give way to allow that to come into its fullness. And that's why August was such a difficult month for many people after the seeding of those new possibilities. September, therefore, is really going to be about balance. It's going to be about not pushing too hard, not sitting back too much, but really starting to get a feel for which things in my life need attention and which things can I afford to let go of. So September's really going to be a bit of a spring clean. Even for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, it's really going to be a spring clean in terms of what is my constructed identity and what don't I need about that anymore, and what is actually emerging within me that I would like to give a little bit of attention to. So this month of September, many of you are actually going to be finding that you're interested in things you hadn't been interested in before, or there's little glimmers that you would like to pursue and really start to engage with. So it's really about finding that balance again, and just like children do, allowing yourself to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and spreading yourself in a few different directions, because that's really getting to grips with and starting to get comfortable with the multi-directional and multi-dimensional aspect of who we are as humans moving into the new energy. So August 2016 was an immense challenge for many people. Was really about the shedding of the last vestiges of our identity. Even though that's a process we've been going through for quite a few years now, August was really about being confronted with what no longer works in your life. So many of you would have felt as if the rug was being pulled out from under you, or there were directions that suddenly you were presented with a closed door, things not working the way you'd like them to be, betrayals, grief, all sorts of things happening for people that was really about being shown very clearly what you are no longer in alignment with. So August was a time of grief for many of you, time of letting go, time of disappointment, time of disillusionment. But essentially, really nothing that's not going to align with the wholeness of who you are moving into a new paradigm and a new energy is really going to be sustainable for much longer. So we're really starting to see the breaking down of that which you thought you wanted, but is not entirely in synergy with who you are. As we're moving into September, however, we're really starting to see the seeds of new potentials and new possibilities flourish. July was the month of miracles, the month of what if. very shortly followed by what we had to let go of in order to allow those things to come into being. September is a sparkle of new hope for us. So spring cleaning time, in terms of, even for those of you living in the Northern Hemisphere, in terms of what it is that we need to get clear about that is no longer working for us. So August, difficult time because a lot of things stopped working. A lot of bodies stopped working for those of you who have been ill. And really designed to get us to get very, very clear what works for us and what doesn't. Because often we're putting a lot of energy into things and goals and visions and dreams that we had when we had a very strong sense of who we are. And that strong sense of who we are was often embedded in our adopted identities, our reference points that society and family gave us, and not really about the essence of who we are as light beings, as cosmic beings. So moving into this creative period we're moving into on the planet now, we actually have the opportunity to create from a whole new space. So September is the sprouting of that which is really in synergy with you and that which you can actually do very, very well with. So a little bit of optimism for you there, but do be aware this is decision time for a lot of people as well, because the decision really needs to be about what can I let go of and what is it that I need to engage with.